The goal of your 20s isn't to create the perfect life. It is to become the woman that's capable of creating, protecting, and enjoying a meaningful life. When women first enter their 20s, they feel so much anxiety. They ask themselves questions like, am I choosing the right career? Am I falling behind? Should I already be successful? Am I wasting the best years of my life? And why does everybody online always seem so much further ahead? So I think it's really important for us to ask ourselves, what does it actually mean to maximize our 20s? Maximizing your 20s doesn't mean being productive every second of the day, becoming rich before 30, or having the perfect body, relationship, and career. It means using this decade to build the internal architecture of the woman you want to become. So in this video, I'm going to be using 3 different lenses to help you maximize your 20s. First, by training your brain. Second, by forming your character. And third, by building a life that's based off of your personal values rather than external pressures. Hi everyone, my name is Dominique and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So if you're new here, I create content that uses scientific research and philosophical thought to help you live your best life. I'm currently a college student studying neuroscience and I use all of this knowledge I've gathered to help you. As I already mentioned in the beginning of this video, your 20s are your identity building decade. In the field of neuroscience, there's this incredible phenomenon that we know as neuroplasticity. To explain neuroplasticity simply, it's basically when your brain changes according to what you repeatedly do, think, practice, and tolerate. The brain isn't something that's fixed at a certain age. The habits and experiences that we repeatedly endure shape certain pathways that are within our nervous system. So, for example, repeatedly avoiding discomfort trains avoidance. Practicing difficult conversations builds emotional confidence. Constant comparison trains dissatisfaction. And learning new skills builds adaptability, just to name a few examples. So every repeated action that you take every single day is a vote for the nervous system and the identity that you are building. So to put this in a more philosophical perspective, Aristotle has an idea that our character is built through repeated action. You don't become courageous by thinking about courage. You become courageous by practicing courageous behavior. So the important question that you must ask yourself is, what kind of woman are my current habits training me to become? So the habits that you practice on the daily contribute to the level of self-trust that you have within your life. And in your 20s, your focus should be on building self-trust before building self-confidence. So the important difference between confidence and self-trust is that confidence is often treated as a feeling, while the level of self-trust that you have within yourself is built through evidence. So in order to build up the level of self-trust that you have within yourself, you need to be practicing certain things throughout your life. So self-trust develops when you keep promises to yourself, leave situations that violate your values, doing difficult things without needing validation, recovering from failure, and making decisions and learning from them. These are just to name a few. So in order to understand this from a neuroscience angle, our brains learn through experience and prediction. When you repeatedly tell yourself that you're gonna do something, but you don't end up following through, you are teaching yourself that your intentions are unreliable. You don't have that necessary trust in yourself to do the things that you say that you're gonna do. And there's a very big difference from when you consistently follow through with what you say you're gonna do. Even if you do this imperfectly, when you follow through with the promises that you make for yourself, you're building up the necessary evidence that you can depend on yourself and you are able to take care of things where they need to be taken care of. So the more philosophical side of this discussion can be seen through the topic of existentialism. When it comes to existentialism, this brings an important idea in. The idea that freedom is not simply having endless options. Freedom also means accepting responsibility for your choices. A woman who refuses to choose because she fears making the wrong decisions remains controlled by her fear. And being controlled by this fear is not a sign of freedom. It's a sign of being captive to your own limitations. And so many people associate their 20s with freedom. So when you're able to accept responsibility for your choices, you are taking the steps necessary towards that freedom. So a practical challenge that you can implement in your life to help maximize this freedom and maximize your 20s is by choosing 3 small promises that you can keep for yourself for 30 days. That's it. Just 3 things that you have to keep to yourself and you have to consistently do every single day for 30 days. So this could be a range of things. It all depends on what your priorities and your values are in life. So it could be waking up at a regular time, exercising at least 3 days a week, saving a fixed amount of money from your paycheck, reading 10 pages every single day, or even making your bed every single day. You have to make promises that are both realistic and help you take the steps necessary in order to become the highest version of yourself. So the next steps that you can take to help maximize your 20s is by protecting your attention, because this ultimately becomes your life. So, in today's day and age, with social media, so many people are taking their attention for granted. They have a certain mental bandwidth for each and every single day, and you have the power to choose how you use this mental bandwidth. What you put attention to impacts your desires, what you compare yourself to, how deeply you think, and whether or not your goals appear important to you. The way our brain operates is heavily influenced by the reward system that we reinforce. Social media, notifications, novelty, romantic uncertainty, and constant stimulation can repeatedly capture your attention because unpredictable awards are the most appealing. So the problem isn't that pleasure is bad. The problem is that this constant stimulation can make ordinary yet meaningful activities like reading, writing, exercising, planning, or practicing seem very dull. And when it comes to unpredictable awards, these are usually caused by things that are out of your control. Other people's timelines, who approves of you, whether someone texts you back, and what strangers think of your appearance. But the power lies in putting more value in the things that you can influence. The content you consume, what you practice on the daily, who you spend your time with, and what you allow to occupy your mind. So when you're choosing what to put your attention to, you have to remember that your attention is the raw material from which you build your future on. So what steps can you take to better allocate your attention? The first step I try to take every single day is avoiding being on social media first thing in the morning. You immediately enter a loop of ruminating on what other people are doing rather than putting that attention onto what you could be doing. And to continue with this, you should be curating who you follow. There's so many accounts on the internet that are created just for the sole basis of providing surface level pleasure. But if you are someone who's wanting to maximize their 20s, you should be very specific on who you follow and the content you consume. Curate your feed to be full of people who are on the same path as you, that have already done the things that you aspire to do, and learn from them. Don't consume their content on the basis of envy or jealousy. Use it as fuel to keep you on the same path because they are evidence that it can be done. And another thing you should be doing to enhance your attention is by being focused on one thing at a time. I know myself and I have always opted for the multitasking route. Whenever I'm doing one thing, I always feel I'm most productive if I'm doing something at the same time. But what I've begun to realize now is that this isn't actually promoting productivity. Because yes, while I'm able to check things off of a to-do list, I'm not necessarily getting the full value of those one things that I could be doing. So what I've noticed myself is that I'm in class and I'm trying to pay attention to both what my professor's saying and also what my study plan is. But ultimately, by trying to separate my attention, I'm not getting the full value and full understanding of what my professor is saying. This is going to cause me to have to put more time reviewing the content and understanding it because I wasn't fully paying attention to what he was saying in order to actually consume and process the content. So I encourage you to practice doing one thing at a time and putting all your attention onto that one thing. Because yes, it might feel a little counterproductive not being able to check as many things off of a checklist. You are going to get a much more profound experience with whatever you're doing. And the last actionable device is replacing passive consumption with active creation. So basically, this is something that I'm currently implementing right now as I'm filming this video. One thing that I've noticed about myself is that I've spent so much time watching other people and their how-to videos on how to change your life. While these videos have given me a lot of knowledge, it was time that I started doing things for myself, that I was the one being the creator. So as I'm filming this video, these are the steps I'm taking so that I can create and so that I can take the steps that all of these creators have been recommending to me and actually implement them. And so by doing this, I'm actively putting the necessary time and attention into this active creation. And I feel like it's unlocking a lot of amazing things about me. And I feel like since I'm putting so much value into this, this is going to be such a pivotal part in my 20s, and it's going to help catapult me into a whole different level of understanding myself and understanding the world around me. So it did just start storming outside, so I apologize if you hear any lightning, but we're all good. And so the next part that I wanted to talk about is don't build your identity based on being chosen. I feel like when we're entering our 20s, this is the time that we're truly getting into the dating world, making new friendships, meeting new people, and because of this, a lot of our validation is at the hands of others and whether or not other people choose to be with us. So there's a lot of cultural pressure that is rooted in deriving worth from romantic attention, being agreeable, being desirable, being included, being considered easygoing, or being chosen for a job, friendship, relationship, or anything, really. And I just want to clarify that wanting love is healthy. It's a healthy and normal thing. But the danger lies in outsourcing your identity to another person's approval. So social rejection can feel super threatening to us humans because belonging is so deeply integrated to our human experience. So it does not mean that rejection is evidence that you're unworthy. And emotional intensity within our relationships is not proof that they're truly worthwhile. So our nervous systems might interpret rejection as a sign of danger, but it's your values that truly put the meaning into that rejection. So this applies to Simone de Beauvoir's philosophical idea that women are often encouraged to exist in relation to others rather than as full agents of their own life. And so I encourage you to become an agent of your own life. Don't exist as someone that's merely waiting to be evaluated by others, to be validated by others. So some important questions that you can ask yourself in order to understand if you're living your life for you. Do I actually like the person that I'm trying to impress? Is this relationship one that's shrinking me or expanding me? Am I choosing this person, or am I only hoping to be chosen? And what standards would I have in my life if I weren't afraid of being alone? And one thing I want to clarify is that I'm not promoting emotional detachment or hyperdependence. I more so want to promote the importance of interdependence. And this is your ability to love others while also being able to love and value yourself. And so to further progress into this, it's really important to choose relationships that regulate you rather than destabilizing you. So when I'm talking about this, I mean both for friendships and romantic relationships. So just to clarify, a healthy relationship isn't one that's completely free of conflict. Healthy relationships aren't always effortless, but they do allow for honest communication, mutual respect, repair after conflict, emotional safety, space for individual growth, and consistency between words that are spoken and actions that are practiced. So in order to fully understand what a healthy relationship is, it's also important to be able to recognize unhealthy patterns. And so these may include constant uncertainty, intense highs or lows, fear of expressing your needs, chronic comparison or jealousy disguised as love, and repeated disrespect followed by dramatic apologies. But familiarity is something that is often mistaken for safety. Someone who was raised in an environment that promoted a lot of inconsistency might feel unusual when they're surrounded by consistency. And so this attracts them to inconsistent relationships because that's what's familiar to them. But that doesn't mean that it's healthy. Chemistry is able to tell your nervous system when it's able to recognize a pattern, but it's not able to tell you whether or not that pattern is good. And so use this as a moment of reflection to understand what relationships are actually contributing to you and which ones are actually taking from you. A good relationship shouldn't only make you feel desired, it should also support honesty, courage, responsibility, and growth. And so when you're navigating through your 20s, connect love to virtue. The next thing I want to talk about is developing competence and financial agency. And so I encourage all women to focus their 20s on being able to support themselves and make choices that are sourced from your strength. So there's so many different skills that you can learn during your 20s. And a very important one is understanding how money works. Once you're able to get this basis of understanding, you're able to focus a lot more on your financial literacy. And through this, you're going to be able to build marketable skills, understand the importance of knowing how to negotiate, understanding contracts, learning how to save money, learning the importance of investing and how to do that responsibly, and building professional relationships that will help you build a larger body of work. And so by including this in the video, I don't want it to seem that your career is your only source of meaning. You should develop this degree of competence in order to help promote the freedom in your life. Because money cannot give you identity, but financial instability can force you to stay in situations that you would otherwise leave. Allow yourself to grow a better understanding of what it means to be financially free. The early stages of learning can often feel very uncomfortable because your brain is operating without an established pathway. So when you're working on developing these new neural pathways, you have to make sure that you promote patience and tolerance, because this will help motivate you to continue pushing and to continue developing these different pathways within your brain. And so one thing to remember is that difficulty is not a sign that you're untalented. It's just evidence that learning is occurring. And you can compare this while you're going to the gym. When you're first doing the leg press and you start at like 50 pounds, and then as you're trying to work your way up to 100 pounds, that process of trying to get stronger can be very hard on your body because you're forcing your body to push a weight that it's not accustomed to. But the more you go into the gym and the more time and dedication you put into increasing your weight on the leg press, the easier it's gonna get. And that's exactly how it is in your brain. The more time and attention that you put into learning something, the more developed your pathways will become and the better learning experience you will have. And so when it comes to wanting to live a fulfilling life, this is often sourced becoming excellent, that's something useful and can contribute to the world. And so a practical framework that you can implement while in your 20s is having one skill that people will pay you for, one skill that helps you communicate, another skill to help you manage your money, one creative practice that helps stimulate your creativity, and one way of serving others. At the end of your 20s, you should aim to have these 5 different aspects in your life, and this will help promote that fulfilling feeling that we all as humans are searching for. And so the next point is that our brain has a very hard time operating without a healthy and enriched body to support it. And so this is not a discussion on the appearance of body. Your body is not just a decoration of your life. It is a collection of the biological symptoms that help you experience life. And so to maximize your 20s, you really want to put a lot of time and attention into supporting your body. And how can you do this? By having a consistent sleep routine, by implementing a source of movement every single day, and finding a source of movement that you enjoy and you can have consistency with. Whether this be Pilates, weight training, cardio. Anything that works for you is great. And in order to supplement this movement, you need to make sure that you're prioritizing your nutrition, making sure you get in all your necessary macro and micronutrients that will help support your body's functions. And also, you need to make sure that you're regulating your stress. Do not force yourself to live a life stuck in environments that increase your cortisol levels, because this can have a lot of great impacts on your body. And these are not impacts that we want to promote. And so all of these different aspects operate in the lens of preventative medical care, taking steps to help prevent disease before it happens. And other ways you can promote this is by alcohol awareness, spending time outside, and promoting the necessary rest. So many people take rest for granted, but it's truly what helps heal our bodies so that it can continue pushing each and every single day. And so in order to put this in more of a neuroscience perspective, sleep, physical activity, and chronic stress affect our attention, emotional regulation, memory, and decision-making abilities. So once you're able to have this degree of discipline in your body and getting the adequate hours of sleep and promoting a nutritious lifestyle and prioritizing movement, you're making it clear that discipline is not a punishment and that a healthy routine helps to support your necessary degree of agency. And so when we're talking about this, we want to make sure that we're rejecting the two opposite extremes. You don't want to be too obsessive over your appearance that this takes away from your life. And you don't want to be too neglectful of your body in the name of productivity. You want to present the care of your body as a stewardship rather than vanity. I know this happens to me a lot of times, but I wake up in the morning and I look at my to-do list and I think, wow, I have a lot to do. When am I gonna fit in the gym? And this is what I mean. You don't want to take this ability to move your body for granted. You have to place more priority in your physical state, because this ultimately plays a huge role in the amount of things that you can get done in your life and in your day. So don't sacrifice your sleep in order to get another assignment done. Don't skip your workout in order to do something else. Place your priorities where your priorities are needed. And this will ultimately help support your mind, body, and spirit. And so we're nearing the end of the video, and I have 2 more key points that I really want to discuss. And this one is probably one of the most important ones, and it's allowing yourself to be a beginner. A lot of people, especially young women, often avoid opportunities because they fear looking incompetent, awkward, or behind. The whole point of your 20s is putting yourself into uncomfortable positions, putting yourself into these uncomfortable situations so that you're able to grow from them. It's exactly like the example I gave earlier in this video when you're working out on your leg press and you're trying to hit the 100-pound mark. As you're scaling up in the weights, you're in this uncomfortable position where all your muscles are tense. You're really trying to put a lot of effort into pushing it. And this is an uncomfortable situation. But in order to get to that 100-pound mark, we have to endure those uncomfortable moments so that we're able to grow up and meet our goals. So this is exactly how our 20s are. So the 20s consist of applying to jobs, applying to schools, and one important idea to implement is applying before you feel ready. Put yourself into that uncomfortable position before you feel ready, because a lot of times we will never feel 100% ready for something because we've never experienced it before. The majority of the things we do in our 20s, we will all be beginners at. But instead of taking the state of beginning as a state of incompetence, it is important to switch this into a state of enrichment. You are growing and you are learning in all of these new situations that you're placing yourself into. So start creative projects that you were scared to do. Travel the world in a thoughtful way. Take a class of something that you've been wanting to learn. It could be anything, a dance class, a swimming class. I've seen so many videos of girls in their 20s that decide to take ballet classes because they weren't able to do it when they're younger, but they used their free will to put themselves into an adult ballet class, and they learned a whole new skill, and it introduced them to a whole new world of things. And also, speak publicly in front of a stage, in front of a crowd, and just speak. And you will see that so many people will be interested in what you have to say. Try a new sport. Meet people that are outside of your social circle. This is something that I think is the most important in our lives, because I'm a firm believer that each and every single person that comes into our lives comes into our life with a purpose. They come into our lives to teach us something. And whether they're teaching you that you should put cucumbers in your pub sub, or they're teaching you how to maximize your 20s, every single person comes into our lives for a reason, and that reason is something that we should value. So allow yourself to meet new people and have any sort of conversation with them. All of these novel experiences are learning opportunities, and repeated exposure to manageable discomfort helps the brain update its expectations. So the objective is not to eliminate fear before acting, but allow courage to teach the brain something that overthinking cannot, and it's that you can experience discomfort and survive it. And so I really want to bring in the discussion of this important philosophical idea, and that's amor fati. And it's not passive acceptance, but learning to use reality as a material for growth. And mistakes do not need to become identity statements, but they can become very valuable information that you can take throughout your life. And so the last point I really want to make for this video is that in your 20s, you should live in the pursuit of creating a personal philosophy before the world gives you one. And so without conscious values, people tend to absorb values from many different sources, from social media, family expectations, romantic partners, workplace culture, beauty standards, consumer culture, and their peer groups. And so something that I encourage you to practice is writing your own personal philosophy. And the way that you can do this is by asking several questions. What does a good life mean to you? What kind of woman do I respect? What am I unwilling to sacrifice for success? What relationships do I want to cultivate? What suffering am I willing to endure in the name of meaning? What do I define as enough? What would I pursue even without public recognition? What do I want my future self to thank me for? And so use all of these different questions to understand what your personal philosophy is and what you want your approach to life to be. And so as the closing message for this video, I want you to understand that your 20s do not necessarily have to be your decade of collecting as many life experiences as you can. You can maximize your 20s by becoming more awake, more capable, more discerning, and more fully yourself. Because once you're able to be intentional with the life that you're living, that's how you're able to maximize this decade of growth and challenges. So I hope you've all enjoyed this video and you were able to take a bit of information from what I was talking about. If you guys need any clarification or you want to further this discussion on how to maximize your 20s, please make sure to leave a comment. I would love to have any sort of discussion. So yeah, I had a lot of fun making this video and I hope you enjoyed watching. So thank you so much and have a good day. Bye.